going into the war rooms.
So I'm going to do a brief introduction just here. Now,
Bombs fell here during World War II. No damage down here.
There was bombing. Now, the staff working here stood to reason if there were sustained bombing attacks, they wouldn't be able to go home or to barracks. So we've got military and civilian personnel working here on site, men and women. And on this level up here, only enough emergency bedroom space for senior officers, senior politicians. Everybody else had to use a dormitory set up under here, under 70. So it was expanding the whole time. Now, they were down here with the rats, mice, mosquitoes, damp toilets. There were no flushing toilets here on site at that time. They were using L-SAN chemical barrels. You have to understand that in the first blitz there were 57 consecutive nights of bombing, so for nearly 2 months the people couldn't get out of this place, shrapnel flying around.
Inside the cabinet room. Most of the tourists are out there.
Here in Westminster for the War Cabinet and the Defence Committee. So this is our government meeting here. 2 separate committees, which I always put together, because at the heart of both committees you've got all the same politicians. Those Winston Churchill and the Army and the Navy were 2 completely separate institutions that really didn't like speaking to each other. So in 1940 he became Prime Minister and he immediately declared that his War Cabinet is the only executive body in the country, not moving at all, and as Minister of Defence he will see to it personally that the Navy, the Army and the Air Force work together, combined. Just over the back here, 7 of the seats around the outside is the rest of his War Cabinet, the decision makers with supporting politicians. And the 3 chairs in the centre, the Chiefs of the Armed Services, Navies. So our military have received their instructions many times right here, came to these meetings. Now the reason why they came down here was because a bomb had dropped in number 10 Downing Street, and number 10 was damaged, so they had to come here, they had no choice. And Churchill was telling these men in the centre over and over, get at the Germans somewhere, on the defensive. Now the show of power was specifically for the United States of America. We needed help. President Roosevelt wanted to help his country personally. Conservative Prime Minister, Socialist Deputy Prime Minister. Today. These 2 men detested each other. Winston, his character, this didn't help. He was loud, aggressive, dramatic. The man sitting there never made. So they forgot that. It didn't mean anything anyway. Now Winston didn't make that pledge. You have probably heard he was a high-functioning alcoholic. It's perfectly true. Whiskey, port, brandy, wine, champagne. He was drinking all day, every day. It's how he functioned. He was drunk while working once. Now they were actually here, and they had been driven down here soon after D-Day because V-1 rockets were coming over. It's the world's first cruise missiles. And they described him, he was rude, abusive, incoherent. And this is completely different to normal, because he's often rude and abusive, but he's never incoherent. And he collapsed right here. Now they dragged him upstairs, they put him to bed in the number 10 annex. He spent 5 years, most of it living here in this building. It's now the Treasury, that apartment doesn't exist anymore. The doctor got a look at him and discovered he had pneumonia. This is what's staked here at the beginning of the day. This is the Prime Minister's daily work. They all get this and sign on it. At that time, these boxes belonged to the position of Prime Minister, not the person. That was Attlee in 1945. But he could not do this. In the meantime, he had decided they were souvenirs of the office, and he had his name put on them in gold lettering. Now, but he took what he wanted, when he wanted. That's just how he worked. There was, I can describe to you the 3rd major risk to the safety of this place, which is slightly different this time, direct enemy action. One of Winston Churchill's personal fears was German paratroops. That's to use a weapon. Alright, so just to set the tone, Winston, he sent a message to President Roosevelt in the summer of 1940, just letting him know, you may soon be dealing with a British government that surrendered to the Germans. Because my cabinet and I will all be dead. There's no bluster here, okay, because those politicians back there, nearly every single one of them had been in the armed forces earlier in their lives, and they had fought in wars, multiple wars, some of them. The men running those battles know their battle reports have to come here. These men are processing this information and they are feeding it directly to the government and the Chiefs of Staff. This is the highest office for information anywhere in the British Empire. Okay, centre of everything. So the room opened on 27th of August 1939. They knew the German army was about to attack Poland. It then did not close for a single second. In the next 6 years of war, they worked 8-hour shifts on a constant rotation. So there was always someone here. And then on the 16th, there was no information coming here into this room. So it just suddenly stopped dead. These men left They locked that door over there, the only way in and out of this room at the time. They locked that door. Nobody came back here in any official capacity for the next 36 years after. Liberated Europe. There's hundreds of millions of starving people. We are sharing what we've got. And the Americans are trying to flood supplies into Europe.
Of sugar.
Okay, they can't get it here fast enough, and we were actually rationed until 1955. Took 10 years to get it sorted out. So on nothing but building Spitfires. Best aircraft in the world at the time, and we had hundreds of them hidden. We sent them all up on that day. Now, in the event, there was well in excess of 1,500 aircraft fighting in the sky over London and the southeast in a battle which lasted for 13 hours. And at the end of the 13 hours, the Germans didn't like coming back. They switched their attacks to the night time, and this is roughly the point here when it's really dawning on Adolf Hitler that he cannot get his army across the channel. He had to wait until November 42. Finally, Battle of El Alamein in Egypt. We start pushing the Germans back for the first time in the Second World War. We're more than 3 years into our war at this point. Charting the progress of our convoys just here, moving men, food, fuel, military equipment all over the globe, wherever it needs to go. So if you get a closer look, you can see that. Winston was always keeping a careful eye on what was going on in the Atlantic and truly worried. Okay, and you can see geographically what the problem is. Hitler was controlling the coastline all the way from the top of Norway down to the south of France. Spain, Portugal and all of the countries in North Africa, they're neutral governments, but they're closer to the Germans than they are to us. 8 million tonnes of shipping coming into this country. And our imports dropped by an entire third of what they had been before the war. So this is the tonnage of shipping, food, military equipment destined for this country that did not get here. This is all at the bottom of the Atlantic. 16 months going into 1943, another 8 million tonnes. Right, so what actually happened here at this point was we couldn't hear what the Germans were saying. Our best scientists, you've probably heard of Alan Turing, May 1943, you see the figures suddenly drop off. Alan Turing, with the help of his mechanical bomb computers, he has broken that Enigma machine, and they're listening to the Germans talk for the rest of the war. Now here's the crucial thing. Here in this room, these people have never heard of Bletchley Park, Enigma, Turing, Ultra is classified. The only people here on this site who knew about Bletchley Park was Winston and about a dozen people around him. So here, these men putting up these strips, they noticed this. And they put it down to superior air power and superior destroyer hunter groups. And for the next 30 years after the Second World War, our historians believed exactly the same thing, because Enigma remained classified. The white phones and the green phones, this is for internal calls. Black phones with the green handles are for external calls, and you have to differentiate. These phones here are scramblers, okay, and the dummies are holding their receivers just over there. These particular phones go through this valve amplifier down here. This creates a fuzzy noise on the line, and you need the scrambler to unpick what's being said. Now, this is living in the private apartment just up here. The sirens went off some hundreds of times, and he was supposed to come down here, but he went to the roof instead. He's a man of action. He wants to see the action. Right? So he actually said to his bodyguards, God has another plan for me. It's not to be struck by a bomb in the Blitz. I have far too much work to do. Those are his exact words. So the bodyguards had a hard time with this. It's their job to keep him alive. They are on the roof with him in an air attack. They cannot get him down. They cannot leave him, so they're exposed as well. They're not happy with this. But Churchill, now October 1940, he's bombed out of there. So for the rest of the Blitz, he had to speak from here. And what they actually said of his speeches was he mobilised the English language and he sent it into battle. And he was the only one that was able to do this in the way that they needed. This is the important thing. You're out there, you're living in the city out there somewhere, you're being bombed, you're frightened, you don't know what's going on. You know the Prime Minister's coming onto the radio. You turn on the radio and you listen. And what you get is very simple. He knows what he's doing, why he's doing it, how he's doing it. He's leading you, he's not deserting you. We're in this together.